when you're a new agent and if you really want to be, the top of your game, you have to be a little delusional. You have to be unstoppable. I think that's the thing is you have to tell yourself that you're unstoppable and be unstoppable.
How are you? Good morning.
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good, good. I cannot complain. I cannot complain. I know this is long awaited here. You joined us not too long ago. I think this was like what, maybe less than 6 months ago.
November, yeah, November. No, I just joined in November, I think.
November. Okay, that's insane.
Well, yeah, I was, I actually, because my contracting took so long. I think I went
Mhm.
to your guys' conference at the end of September, but by the time everything was done, I think I started really selling beginning of November,
Yeah.
a couple
Yeah, I
days.
remember we saw you in Utah when you had came out there. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely a pleasure to, have you on a call. I don't think like many people get on a call this early on, especially just like, typically people get like have to like work with us for at least like 6 months or so before like, we actually get them on. But I mean, you've popped off really fast, so we definitely want to highlight that. So again, I appreciate you joining us. I kind of want to start off by giving people a little bit of background, talk a little bit about the theme for today, if that's cool. So, just to give everyone a little bit of insight here, today's like the biggest thing of today's conversation, based on the guests that we're going to be speaking to, really talking about resilience, reinvention, and then like obviously the real results that came from Tina Wood's story. Tina is a what we want to call an elite sort of comeback producer. So I know you, based off what you explained or some of the research that I did, correct me if I'm wrong, you had a pretty serious car accident, and you suffered like 6 spinal fractures. You weren't in life insurance, you were in the health space, and then or you think maybe you were in life insurance, and then you got into a different agency or something while you were in the hospital. Like you decided that you had like an epiphany or something that you were just thinking like I need to get back in this space. And then you immediately like from being in the hospital to getting back in the insurance space, you wrote like 35 to $40,000 in a month. So obviously that proves resilience. Another big thing too is that I think you've kind of proven telesales mastery in a sense. Like you've consistently written strong production across multiple agencies. So lead types, dialer systems, showing your success is really driven by like skill and discipline, not just one platform or one agency. You've kind of gone from place to place and made it happen wherever you've gone. Um, but obviously you also have a little bit of experience in Medicare too. So you faced company shutdown if where you were at prior to. Okay. Um, and then you deliberately chose to go all in on life insurance and aligning with the right system and technology to scale long term. Did I hit everything on the head or am I missing something?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Appreciate you. So this kind of gives them a little bit of background here. And first question I want to ask here is this, because this is crazy. This is why a lot of people are shut down. And I always I like to give, the ladies, your flowers a lot of times. Because like, yeah, this is on this industry and how interesting it is. Like this industry is dominated by male figures, but ladies actually have an upper hand. Like statistically, if you're a lady within sales, you have, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a 30 to 50% higher close ratio than a man in this industry. But it takes a lot of courage to be able to get in this business, right? Because it's a very emotional business. You're constantly getting told to F off and, all types of crazy things. And it can take a toll, you know. But again, based off the research that was done, you share that a injury essentially changed the course of your life. So, how did that difficult experience push you toward a career in insurance? And in what ways do you think overcoming a personal trial prepared you to excel in sales?
It really taught me a lot. I've always considered myself a grateful person, but even for the little things, like when you are laying and you can't move, you have a lot of time to think. And even taking for granted things like being able to walk and every little moment and every little thing. And so I started, after my divorce and after everything I went through, sometimes you have a little bit of a pity party.
Mm,
And it really changed my mindset. And, I started really reframing everything with gratitude. And it really taught me a lot about discipline because you have to be disciplined to like retrain yourself to be able to walk again and rehab and do all that. So, I mean, that was really key in kind of shifting my mindset. And I think that was the most important because when I first got into insurance, I went right away as a broker and I didn't really understand the system. I was buying, expensive leads and I thought, okay, maybe this isn't for me. So I was possibly going to transition into health, which is when I got into my accident. And that's when it really, again, gave me a lot of time to think and reshifting my mind, focusing a lot on like gratitude, what I'm grateful for, and grateful for everything around me instead of focusing on what I've lost
Hmm.
and what has happened in my life, and really taking the discipline that I needed to kind of retrain myself to walk and things like that. I just applied that to insurance. And it's, I'm going to give it another go. And so I went into at the time it was free leads. I'm a broker now again, but at the time it was their first year doing free leads. So it was a wonderful company, but first year doing free leads, first year doing telesales. So
Hmm.
they had a lot of like hiccups at the time. I'm sure they smoothed everything out. I had some friends that went back there, but it was a little bit shaky. And so that's when I transitioned over to Senior Life from my friend Justin, and they're wonderful as well. So yeah, that was really it, the
That's
discipline
powerful.
and
That's powerful. That's powerful. You're relating that the ability, the same way you have to teach yourself how to walk again is the same way you have to teach yourself to get back into insurance again, which is
yes.
crazy. So how long were you in the hospital for, if you don't mind me asking?
I was only actually in there for a few days. My sister is a
Wow.
nurse. She had to bring me back home to Canada. I'm originally from
Wow.
Canada,
Okay, okay.
um,
Where in
and
Canada? Where in Canada?
right above Montana,
Right above Montana.
Alberta.
Oh yeah, Alberta, Canada. Okay, okay.
Alberta area,
Gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
So I was fortunate enough, my sister's a nurse, and I had family there to take care of me.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
my mom was really taking care of me. So I was really grateful because after my divorce, my ex went sailing for a couple of years around the world. So we had to pull out my kids from school for a
Mhm.
couple of years. We went to homeschool. They were back and forth between us. And that's why I was able to go home to Canada. It was a blessing in disguise. I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
wanted to go home.
Yeah.
And, it was just this thing with me having to stay in Utah. But after the accident, it was just such a blessing that I was actually able to go home and spend time with my family. So I was so grateful, actually.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I know. Actually, I lived in Canada for a year myself, but like, I know you guys have free healthcare out there in Canada. Is that still a thing? Did you get that or no?
Uh, yeah, healthcare is free, and I did go to some appointments.
Mhm.
I do love living in America. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Healthcare
Okay.
is, it takes a very long time for things
Yeah,
too.
that's the
I
thing.
can
Yeah.
get something in Utah that would take 2 days, a
Yeah.
day, and it would take me 6 to 9 months in Canada.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but Canada is amazing too. Not knocking. I love Canada. It's home. But I don't know, there's give and take with
Yeah, of
everything.
course, of course. You pay the premium. You pay the premium, you're gonna get better service, you know? That's the
Right.
truth. It's like leads, you know? You're just
Yeah.
paying for a better appointment set. That's all. But okay, you talked a little about homeschooling though, right? So as a
Yep.
homeschooling mom running in, a booming insurance business, like what does a day in your life actually look like? We have a lot of mothers within our organization. We also have like, single mothers, right? We have mothers who are, responsible for keeping the equilibrium of a household together, right? Not only just being the breadwinner, but like actually, playing both roles. So how have you managed to schedule your day so that you're present for your family and still writing a huge production? Like,
So two things. Number one, you have to be very intentional with your time. Like when I'm
okay.
with my children, I am very intentional.
Mhm.
Like I ask them questions, I play, I get down there, we go do things. You have to be very intentional when you're with them because, you're working the other time. So you have really got a time slot that, your high income hours. And number two, I started to ask for help. I never asked for help. And I know there's some people out there that probably have that same personality that I can do everything on my own. but I started to ask for help. When I was in Canada, with my sister and with my mom. Luckily, they're back in school now. But for that 2 years while I was homeschooling, it was just something so foreign to me to have to ask people. I didn't like it. I was used to being the rock. Like people came to me. It made me really vulnerable to like reach out and ask people for help. But I'm really grateful that I did because it did help me uh, get through a lot of that time. And so I think, yeah, being intentional with your time, asking for help, I think those were the two biggest things that helped me as a mom at that time when I was homeschooling. Yes,
How
and
old are your
even
kids
now,
now?
they're 8 and 10, but when the journey started, when the divorce, when they were 6 and 8,
Okay.
so it was. It was not easy, but it was also very rewarding,
Yeah, yeah.
spending more time. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
even
You get to
now
know.
too, I have a sitter that picks them up after school from Monday to Thursday.
Okay.
Um, so that I don't break up my high income time. Like, because
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the Hodges team, we're like more of an afternoon team
Yeah,
and
yeah.
have to really, like I said, ask for help.
Hmm.
Know when your high income producing hours are. You have to really time slot. So you have to be
Mm.
really intentional with your time.
Okay. Talk about that. Talk about like because I think this is a big thing too, right? And especially when we all interview, at least on the leadership team, when we all interview folks, right? Social media does a really bad job of conveying the message of how a day in the life of an insurance agent really is. And so what I mean by that is that essentially people see that, oh yeah, you can maybe work for an hour or two a day and you're gonna make crazy amount of income. The reality is that it's not that. This thing becomes your life until it becomes a stream of income for you. So talk a little bit about like the best times of the day to be able to like do outreach and how you as a mother have been able to like map out your day in the life schedule around those times.
Yes, I think when you're starting out in the business, though, you have to put as many hours as you can. Like when I was starting, I mean, on the weeks I didn't have my kids, that's all I did. It was 12 hours because, the more repetition, that's how you get better, like time on task. When I did have them, I still tried to put in as many hours as I could in the morning. I have a morning routine. Not everyone needs one, right? Like
Mhm.
Alex Hormozy just goes, just go work.
Yeah, yeah.
But it works for me, prayer, meditation, journal, exercising, hydration, eating right. I feel like it just sets me right for the day.
Mhm.
Taking care of my kids as well, feeding them, helping them with everything that they need, homework, so really having the discipline to like stick to a schedule, being intentional with your time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think like as when you start up at this business, I think man, the moms out there really need to know this is just such an amazing opportunity. And I think because it's such a male-dominated industry, they think that they can't do it. But I had zero sales skills, zero. I was not good when I started. I didn't know how to objection handle. Everyone said I was too nice for this. I had to really, when I started excelling is when I reframed it from what I was doing was actually serving people. So, I mean, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for moms for sure.
What's the difference in word tracks between like selling someone and serving someone?
I think you really have to understand their why and not just be so obsessed with, getting the sale. Like you have to really, like I used to have this thing. I don't have it anymore, but it was like taped up that said like heart-driven sales. Like, how
Mhm.
can I make my clients better than I found them? And no joke, like literally the day after I started intentionally focusing on that, I
Mhm.
remember the shift. And it's just, and I think the universe has a way like in play with that as well. When you're literally wanting to serve others, like the universe just connects you with clients that want to be protected and they truly they're saying to themselves like, oh God, like Lord, like connect me with someone that's going to really help me, and then the universe just works its magic and it just connects us. I think that's really important, like just treat them how you would want your parents to be treated.
Mhm.
Do right by your client and it will always work out the best for
No
both of
doubt.
you.
That's beautifully said. Now, tell me a little bit about like, you touched a little bit about your schedule. what it's like, being a mother, but also being a top producer within the organization. Uh, think back to like your first months selling Final Expense, because I think that's like a majority of like where your
Yeah.
name has been built. What was like the hardest lesson you'd say that you had to learn early on? And was there like a particular moment or breakthrough that took you from struggling to suddenly getting it in this business?
You know what? Again, it's back to the accident too. It was
Mhm.
literally having that much time to think and I can't stress enough how important mindset is in
Mhm.
this game. It's so critical.
Mhm.
You can read all the books, you can listen to podcasts, you can do all the things, but if you're not actually working on yourself, personal development, self-care, really learning to kind of like align your values with who you want to become, all these things. It is so important because once you kind of shift your mindset into, and really goal setting as well, just doing all the things. I think that was the biggest game changer for me because in the beginning I was like, oh, sales is, I'm not pushy. I'm too nice. And you're just thinking sales is a certain way. I think the reframe was the most important. And during the accident, I had a lot of time to think. And I think that was the thing that did it for me. Like it was the shift in my mind. That
Hmm.
was key. Hmm.
Okay. So okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you were in health insurance, then you had an accident, then you got in life, or you
No,
were in a life accident back into life?
so the reason I went to my first IMO was they initially I just wanted to do Medicare because he had this YouTube about doing life for a couple of years and going into Medicare. So that's why I chose that IMO. And I was doing life as a broker just for a little bit. Like I just started, probably a couple of years ago, end of that year. And then because I wasn't really prepared for the chargebacks and I just I was too, I didn't know how to objection handle. I didn't know a lot of things. And so I thought maybe this isn't for me. And so I thought I would switch into health insurance. And when I was trying to make that transition, that's when the accident happened. And then I just thought about like, why was I scared? Like, why was I scared? Like, why couldn't I have done that? Like, I just like asked myself a lot of questions. Like, and that was when the reframe came in. It's like, okay, because I keep thinking it's like a bad thing, and then, but you're really serving clients. Like, and I had this one client and I have her text and she was just thanking me and it just like sometimes it takes that one person to really, touch your heart and you think to yourself like, wow, like I am serving these people, they are so grateful. Like I love what I do. And again, it's that really mental like reframe that you have to succeed in this business.
Hmm. Yeah, it's unique. It's a unique thing because, like, I mean, did you have sales experience prior to this? Like,
There,
prior to
no,
insurance?
no,
That's
because
crazy.
yeah, no. I met my ex-husband in my late 20s and then I was with him for a very long time and we divorced a couple years ago and then that's when I got into this. But it was very spotty. I was very part-time because
Yeah.
of the fact that my ex was sailing and my kids were homeschooled. They were back and forth. I didn't have a consistent schedule and with my accident. But when I
Yeah.
did have time and when I did was able to work, I did very well. But now that my ex is done sailing, my kids are back in school, and I found you guys. I'm so grateful. I am
Yeah.
ready to crush, like, and even I'm learning every day, like how I can do things different. Like I was listening to an Ed Milet podcast the other day,
Mhm.
and what I would have even done different, even with you guys. I thought, huh, because I was listening to the podcast and he talks about how you have to really press the gas when people let off. And I
Mhm.
noticed I did that in December. You
Mhm.
can make excuses, you can make whatever, because in November, like, I sold 46 something. And then in December, you let the gas off, you make excuses. Oh, my kids are out of school. I'm going to take 3 weeks off. I'm going to do this. January, I went, I went to Mexico, did
Yeah.
this. You make these excuses, you done well, but I would have done things different and I'm going to do things different. Every day I'm learning.
Uh-huh.
After that podcast, it just clicked. And Ed
Mhm.
Milet's just like, no, you push the gas when people let off, especially
Mhm.
like during holidays and things like
Mhm.
that. And I
Mhm.
love that. I love learning every day. And I think, this year I really want it to be a big year. So I'm really excited. I'm so glad I found you guys. You guys are the best. Like seriously, I can't talk enough good things about you guys. It's amazing like how you guys do things here, the Zoom rooms, the support. It's nothing like I've ever experienced. And
Mm,
and I've experienced a lot of different things. I've experienced like even with dialers like
mm,
Kixie, Conboso, and at one of my MOs, we did like inbound like live transfer leads,
mm,
but I have never experienced anything like CallX
mm,
and just my team. Like I enjoy going to work.
mm.
I enjoy it. Like it doesn't even feel like work. And yeah, I can't wait for like you guys are all gonna blow up because like when people find out about
We
you,
are. We
yeah,
are.
it's just gonna keep blowing up because
Mhm,
this truly is to me like
mhm,
the best, you know, opportunity for people. Like I have never made so much money in such a short like, and I'm not saying that everyone can do, you obviously need the experience, like how Marlon talked about this
yeah.
before as well, like in that short amount of hours, the 5 6. I don't recommend that for new agents like at all, and I'm a mom, so sometimes like it's different for someone that's just starting out or someone like Elijah who wrote almost 70K working double the hours that I did,
Mhm,
right? So it's an opportunity for anyone, whether
mhm,
you're, a 20-something-year-old, manager or, a mother like myself, there's opportunities for everyone here. So that's what I really love about, you guys. It's just
mhm,
so cool. Yeah,
mhm.
I really love it. Thank you.
No, of course. And you make this opportunity whole, right? We all do. I think that's the biggest thing with like how we operate is that we're a community, right? It's like everyone has a voice here, everyone has like equal say. So, um, we've intentionally, created this organization in a way where like there's never a time when an agent doesn't receive the support they need. Or like
Yeah.
if they do receive the support, there isn't someone that you can't go to. You know what I mean? Even if you're not getting direct support from the person that you're supposed to be working with, right? Or the coach you're supposed to be working with, like you can always go to somebody else and you will be heard, right?
Yes.
So, we
I've never
appreciate
seen
that.
that before. Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
seen that before. How you guys have all the different rooms. Like I have a couple new agents and she was telling me like how she was just going from room to room and I just love that. I love that support. There's people, that come into our room that are not in our room, and I have the most amazing manager, like, the level of support that he's given me and he's just the goat, right? So
He's
like
the
when
one. He's the one.
he's the one. Like when I'm
Yeah, it's
on
him.
call, he'll be like writing right on my, on my Zoom, and I've never seen that before, right? And so I'm just so grateful to be a part of this. Like I feel like I've landed like on this like hidden gem, and because
Ah,
you guys aren't huge yet,
not
right?
yet. Not yet.
Like I mean, you guys are growing, of course, but it's just such a cool opportunity, and yeah, I'm just super excited to be a part of it. So thank you.
Yeah, we're all going in the same direction. Hopefully, we'll see you on stage next year too, for sure. I mean, you're hitting Hall of Fame. Elijah, if she doesn't hit Hall of Fame, you gotta hang up the boots, buddy.
I'll make sure. I'll retire if Tina doesn't hit
Yeah.
Hall of Fame in
Yeah,
26.
he has to, dude. Has to. God bless you, though. I also want to kind of give him a little bit of insight too, because right, $40,000 in a single month is a lot of business. Okay, and to do that like while also being a mother is definitely not easy, but it's almost unheard of for many people. Like even people who have been with us who are just living by themselves and don't have kids or don't have any of the responsibilities. It's still unheard of, so crazy. So, what specific habits or strategies did you implement that month to hit that level of production? Like, for example, how many calls are you making a day? What were you doing differently from the average agent? Obviously, you're doing inbound though, right? You weren't really doing outbound.
At that
So,
time,
like,
I was doing outbound, like from before.
oh, really?
Yeah, so with the first,
Oh,
yeah,
dang, okay,
when I
okay,
hit
okay,
those 30, 40, yeah, I was doing outbound. So it
okay.
was
Talk about that.
yeah, it was a lot of work. So, like I said, I have zero sales experience. This is why I am so excited for the moms and out there because I feel like it's such an amazing opportunity because someone like me, if I can do it with zero sales skills, all you have to do is put in the time. Like I put in a lot of time. I'm not going to fluff around that. Like you put in like the 10 to 12 hours when you're learning about it's a skill. So you have to like, I was listening to like a lot of other top producers. I was watching a lot of YouTube, like Peter Roberts is one that, I listen to a lot. You gotta put in the dials because sometimes you did age leads and you gotta put a lot more dials in for those. If you were doing those on the side. And then you just really, really have to put, I think, time on task was really, really important. Trying to get at least like 5 to 10 presentations, really like listening to your own self. Like I had recordings of myself, so
Yeah.
listen to myself and I was like, do I sound like that? But
Yeah.
it's really important to listen to yourself as well. Like just all of that, just really treating this as like something that's super important because it is like you have to learn how to master a skill, implement it, but you have to also like learn how like you sound, work on your tonality because that's really key is tonality with this business. The IMO that I started with, they were primarily a face-to-face. I didn't do face-to-face, but they're primarily a face-to-face company and they
Mm,
switched to telesales. But one thing I heard over and over again that they talked about was tonality. Like that
mm.
was the biggest difference from face to face. One of the biggest, obviously, there's other things. You have to learn to build a little bit more trust and rapport at the beginning of the call than being face to face. But I think tonality is super important and really letting them speak, asking questions. So, yeah,
Okay, so you attribute a lot of your success to like actually doing the studying off the field.
actually doing the work, like
Okay.
putting the
Outside
time
of the
in.
field too.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, that's I think that's another big thing that like newer agents tend to neglect coming into this space too, because it's like this thing again, it's a business, right? It's not a job. It's not like um making tacos or lifting boxes, right? It's like requires real mental fortitude.
Yeah.
It's more so like playing a sport, right? Like you have to go, like if you're on the field, this is a contact sport for sure. This is a contact sport. And if you're not training outside of the field, you're not going to the gym, you're not eating clean, you're not doing any of those things, your performance in the field is going to be not so good, you know? So, the beautiful thing about, how much the insurance industry as a whole has kind of like been, developing over these past few years, I'd say, it's been getting a lot of hype. Maybe you can attest to that as well. Is that a lot of people, there's so much resources out there, so many resources. Like YouTube is everything, you
It's
know?
everything. It's
So it's just a few names for everyone too. You mentioned Peter Roberts is great. Jamie Lee Minor is amazing.
Dana
Um,
Neeson. Okay, Dana Neeson was really good too.
Dana Neeson. Okay. Who's this gentleman? There's this guy who does like he talks about how to speak properly. Something Kang. I forgot his name. But this is this
Vin.
uh,
Vin Quang or something?
Wing
Vin.
Twang. Yep, he's an Australian or New Zealand
Yeah.
fellow or Australian fellow.
Hmm.
Great people to learn
I
how.
follow him.
Yeah, he's good. He's really good. But yeah, I mean that's I mean there's no doubt. There's no like question as to like how you've been able to write this massive amount of business. You've done it very organically. You didn't like come from a family that was like, backbone is in sales and you're like that you trained yourself like you can train a muscle on how to learn sales, but you intentionally did it. So and continue to do it as well. So that's amazing. Kind of want to shift a little bit too. Because I know a lot of people here are new, right, who have joined us. Mm, and people have come to us by the masses, like teams have joined us. We also have individual agents that have joined us. All different types and groups of people have joined us. And so I know as someone like yourself who has been at a few agencies, right? I know you speak very highly of us. Maybe it's because we're spitting face to face. I don't know. I'm just talking. I'm
Like
just talking.
I like
I give you
like
a hard
I've
time.
said this to,
Yeah.
my two agents that I brought in and they can see it. Like it's one thing for me to tell them, but they're experiencing themselves, like in their Zooms. I'm like, this is just you guys are amazing. You
I'm just
really
giving you a hard time. I'm giving you a hard time. But regardless though, you have been other agencies, right? Even a lot of us have came from practice companies. So
Mhm.
the big thing that we typically like advocate for is like if you are like especially with us, like a lot of us, like I looked around, I looked at other agencies, interviewed a lot of different agencies before coming here. I have my reasons as to why I am here. But what prompted you to make the switch here? Like, because you were at like two, three other agencies before this. What do you think, like, how did the environment to support differ between our organization and like the other organizations that you were a part of? And like in hindsight, what key factors should an agent consider when choosing or changing agencies to work with?
So one of the massive differences that I see is like, I thought that I had like support in my previous IMOs, like the level of support and community here is bar none. Like
Mm.
with your guys' Zoom, it feels like you're going in, like you have community where didn't really feel that so much. Like we would have like these kind of calls where we'd have like the Zoom call with the company, and then you're just kind of on your own because as a remote agent, sometimes you can feel that
Yeah.
a little bit of that isolation,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
you don't feel that at all here. You're part of a team, you're in the room, you're learning, and I feel that the people here are just goats. Like, I mean, like my manager, like as you know, like he's the best. And it's just the people here, like they're on a different level. And I think being under a part of a branch of FFL in itself, like we're going to the conference, everyone, like I've heard about FFL before, but I never, thought to come into the organization. Everyone said, oh, this is maybe like an MLM. So I didn't even like consider it. After coming in to the organization, I realized that you guys are beyond structured. Like the structure that you have here is bar none. It's amazing. And the ability to be able to do what Harold and Samir did in that short of time, it's just following a blueprint. And that's what FFL has. They have so many of these agencies, like, getting the green jacket, getting this. And I've never seen anything like this before. It's incredible and it's really motivating. So, those are just a few of the things, uh, key differences that I've seen. But there's a lot of little things as well. But I would say, yeah, like even like the support, like I've never seen, how we go into the Zoom room for staff Avengers. We have a whole, you know, support team there to help us with all the little things. I haven't seen that before in my previous two IMOs. And they're wonderful too, don't get me wrong. I mean, I still love, everyone there. Everyone is great. Like I had a wonderful experience at both IMOs. But I am so grateful to be a part of this one. So I'm truly grateful. So thank
Yeah.
you.
No, yeah, we appreciate the glaze. But I also want to know this too. What do you think? And people are wondering. I'm going to keep it unbiased too. I want to
Okay.
keep it super unbiased
Okay.
because, especially, I mean, even when I interview people, right? Like, I interview people who are looking to organize, join our organization. I always say like, we are the best for what we are trying to accomplish. When it comes to support, we are the best. When
Mhm.
it comes to, tracking data, we are the best. Now, when it comes to being like, everyone here has a green jacket and everyone being a Hall of Fame producer, no, that's not what we're trying to do. We're the best at what we want to be good at.
Yes.
So my question to you is this.
Mhm.
For advice that you have for other agents here,
Mhm.
what should agents be looking for when joining an organization? What do you think? What are the, because you've been around, like you've talked
Yes.
to a few different places. What do you think they should be looking for? What kind of questions should be asked?
I think kind of like what you just spoke about, I think especially when you're new, the level of support that you get is key. Because not everyone is going to be, how I was. I'm not saying, I'm, because I, looked into a lot of things myself, because I didn't necessarily have maybe the same level of support, but how much faster could I have gone to, my big months if I had that same level of support that I did here.
Yeah.
So that's one thing is asking about the level of support that you get. And also for me on our team, like lead source and leads, I think that's super important as well. And everyone here crushes. Like when you look at like all the sales going up in different kinds of lead sources, but asking because one thing, sometimes like this may suit this person. I spoke with I think it was Anthony, it was Harold's brother, when I was at the conference, and he's told me that he really likes the Facebook leads over the inbound. So everybody is different, and that's just so wonderful here how you guys have just such a vast array of leads. And so that's another question that they can ask is like, what team that they would go on is what kind of leads they like and what kind of product do they want to, uh, sell, whether it's final expense or mortgage protection. These are the kind of questions you have to ask. And also like, I would say hours, but I think if you're new, like you got to be putting in like 10 to 12, minimum 8, right? If you're brand new, like it's going to just help you get better so much faster. Like just you got to dive in and just put in as many hours as you can. Even, and I'm not talking about like being on the phone for that long, like literally just being in a room listening to top producers. You got to put in that 10 to 12 hours and you will see the difference. So I think those are the few things, the leads, the support, um, those were two of the main things, I think. Am I missing anything? Am I missing anything?
Lead support. That's pretty straightforward. I'd say so. Now, you've been an agent, right? Like you've been a new agent starting from zero.
Mhm.
And now I think it's safe to say you're an experienced agent, producer at the top of your game, right? Always going up, always leveling up. But as of right now, you've earned that title. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone just starting out in insurance today? And then on the flip side, what insight or lesson would you share with a veteran agent who might be struggling to adapt, whether
Okay.
it's seller sales, new products, changing market conditions, whatever it may be?
Okay. So
That
for
second one's going to be a humbling one, though, for a lot of people. But
yeah.
you know how top producers get. Yeah, it's okay.
For new agents, like I've said before, I think it's activity is key. I would say the number one thing for new age, number one, bar none, above all, is activity. Mindset, of course, too, but like activity, like to really, really learn the skill. I think more than anything, you really, really got a time slot to be able to learn everything, whether that's for me, it was learning and listening because that's how I learn is listening. Like I like podcasts, I like Audible. I listened to high producers. So all the new agents out there, like I know this sounds silly, but literally like put Bluetooth headphones on and while you're like doing the dishes, while you're vacuuming, while you're literally just doing things around the house, listen to these top producers like on repeat. Like I would listen to live sales calls and I would repeat them over and over and over again. And, even when you're driving, like little things like that. So even when you're not in the Zoom room, even when you're not actually, when you're even off of the work or off the computer, I still like, I was kind of obsessed. You got to be a little bit like delusional. I remember in the beginning when, I first, after the car accident, my family and friends were like, you got to get out of this, sales is not for you. I'm like, no, I can do this. I'm gonna be one of the top agents. They're like, that's, that you're being delusional. But that's just it. That's what you have to be. When you're a new agent, and if you really want to be, the top of your game, you have to be a little delusional. You have to be unstoppable. I think that's the thing is you have to tell yourself that you're unstoppable and be unstoppable. And so that's the thing for new agents, I would say. For veteran agents, I think, like you talked about being humble, like I think humility it's important, like being able to like adapt to change. Because there's new things that come in, new apps, new or even new dialer systems. Like right now, I had a little bit of experience with Wave in December. I was I didn't really use that system yet, but there was so many I've used Kixi and Convoso, and now there's Wave. There's just always something new coming out. So I think that's one thing is that you really need to learn to adapt and also like stay curious. Just because I think that's the thing is like once you become people say like a top producer, you can't like I mentioned before, Ed Milet said like take your foot off the gas, right?
Mm.
You have to, not get too comfortable and keep going and keep your foot on the gas and stay curious and stay humble, like ask questions, like you're forever going to be a learner. So I think that's going to really help accelerate your game to just be curious, be humble, stay consistent.
What about on the flip side, veteran agents?
Yeah, I think that's what I said with
Oh,
veteran. Yeah, so
okay.
with new agents, it's more time on tasks and being consistent. With veteran agents, it's being kind of humble and
That's hard.
humility and being curious because you kind of get stuck like, you're already at the top and but you have to keep learning and keep being a new student.
Yeah,
So just kind of, I guess, like with that, like humility
yeah,
and
yeah. Tough to teach that.
curious. Yeah.
No doubt. Amazing stuff, Tina. Amazing stuff. Now, I know last guest, and we always have this thing, right? From the beginning of this year, we've been doing this thing, and we're going to continue to do it for now until whenever it gets old. But last guest always asks a question for the next guest.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you the question the last guest had. It was Eason Patton. He's a very renowned name in the insurance space. He asked a question, which was, what was the hardest thing you had to overcome in your business, and what would you change early on in your business?
I think the hardest thing was, like how I said before, was rebuilding after failure.
Mm.
And adversity after I was at like a low point in my life because, not only after the divorce, but I was a stay-at-home mom, so I was always with, my kids. I was, that super mom, took them to jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, basketball, I was with them all the time. And then all of a sudden to have them gone for months at a time because he was overseas, because he was sailing, it was 1 month, 1 month back, and I was just not in a good headspace. So that was probably the hardest thing, was to that come up from what I felt like was such failure. I felt like such a failure. But then I reframed everything, like I said, that, you don't fail, like you either win or you learn, right? It's an experience that you learn from, you get better from. Um, and, the real loss is just stopping. So I decided, like, I'm not going to stop. Like, I'm unstoppable. Like, I'm going to keep going. And I think that was it for me. And what I would have done sooner is I would have shifted my mind frame earlier, before this accident even happened. I would have done that right from the beginning. And I wonder if I even would have made that transition into health, trying to transition it into health, if I just fixed my mindset earlier. But, life is funny that way. Sometimes things have to happen, and the accident had to happen. And, it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back onto all of the stuff with the divorce and the kids being gone and all of this. So I think, yeah, I think that would be my answer.
You said, what question would you ask the next leader or agent to challenge them at the deepest level?
I think going with the theme of like what we've kind of talked about here, like for them, like what would be their uh inner belief or biggest identity shift that created like the biggest like breakthrough in their career. So I think that would be my question.
Be the biggest identity
Yeah,
shift,
like what's the inner belief or
biggest shift.
identity shift that created the biggest like breakthrough for their career? Something along those lines.
Excellent. Cool. You're the best. Appreciate you. Man, I
You're,
think that was amazing, Tina, and I really appreciate you hitting up all these points. I think it was super helpful. You see the chat, everyone's going crazy right now.
you're